you tell I'm tired? So I've been working all night on this project that I call Deployery, and you can make sandboxes, you can fork them, you can take snapshots, do all that, but the most important part is when you go to a sandbox, currently this one is running, and I have Claude here pre-installed, you have these things that I call workflows, like in N8N or in anything else, but here they're just defined in JSON, and let's just run it. This is a hello world workflow that is just an example, and you can see it pushes it, it runs it, and it completes it. And you can see here it got nothing because this is the input and I didn't input anything. So if I run it again, I can say like, hi. See, got hi. And it actually didn't even need to push this because this is just the input that can be dynamic. And if you go ahead and look at what we actually can use for the variables, you have the input, you have these flowing variables actually. So the input, the webhook headers, the schedule timestamp, the schedule cron, step name. Maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I haven't actually explained, what an automation can actually have. But for the triggers, it can have a schedule trigger, it can run once, or it can run recurring. So you can essentially make your own OpenClaw, right? You can make your own chat agent, which talks to you proactively in Deployery. But yeah, you have a schedule trigger. You can have multiple triggers, so you can have multiple schedules firing off the same automation, workflow at different points. And yeah, you can have a webhook, so anything external like N8N, if you still want to use it after this. Anything like Stripe, for example, if you receive a payment, it can hit up the sandbox, boot it up, run the automation inside, run any command. It can be a Claude command, like you can task an agent inside of this, like a CLI, like OpenCode to like go and edit a file, or like, go and set up another automation if it wants, you can do anything you can basically imagine with like computers and AI, essentially. Like this is just your own system, and you can fork it and stuff. But yeah, you have the schedule and a webhook and manual, like I just showed you. But for the steps, the actual things that execute, as you can see, this is a command step, and it just echoed hello from deployer. And you can have a command step, you can have another workflow step, so you can, have a nested sort of execution pattern. And then you have a wait step, which just waits for any amount of time. You said it can wait for a month if you wanted to. And since a sandbox can literally just be paused, just like this, and then I can resume it, since it can just do that, you can have it wait for literally any amount of time, and then resume. Yeah. And so why I stuttered there, why I didn't say anything there, is you have a webhook step, which does the same wait essentially, but it can wait like infinitely. And then if you set it so that when you hit up an external service, you set the webhook URL for it to hit it when it comes back, then it's gonna wake the sandbox up and run it at that point. So you can essentially have, like, nobody has done this as far as I'm aware in the terms of automations and, workflows and like N8N and stuff. they just constantly run. And you have to, waste money and time for that, and nobody wants that, and it just doesn't feel clean, if anything else. And so with this, you can literally just have it auto pause. It's currently not auto paused because Claude is running, but it's just going to auto pause if I don't have anything running defined in this list, by the way. You can see Claude and all this other pre-installed stuff is defined here, but if nothing out of this list, I can just delete it. If nothing out of this list is running, then it's just going to auto pause in a few minutes. And for the steps, if you have a webhook step, that can literally automate anything you can imagine. And so there's also a schedule step, which is literally the same as the schedule trigger over here. You can have a recurring schedule, so cron, and just a timestamp for it to wait until that timestamp, yeah. And cron is just going to fire off, it's just going to fire off the end of the workflow multiple times. I have to actually refine that logic because now I just thought of it. It's just going to do that infinitely, and I don't really want that for multiple executions. So yeah, I'm going to fix that. Maybe even remove it, but probably not. Yeah. So for the data flow, you have the input, so it comes in to the webhook, Maybe I'll show you on Paint or something if I can do it on a touchpad, but you have your input, your input node, you could say in end terms. This is like a webhook, right? Like a okay. Like a fidget spinner, okay. But yeah, you have your webhook, for example, it gets hit, and then it sends the input to a step, And then this is your input variable. And then the step can be a command step, like this. And then it's going to give an output as the input, so the same variable, to the next step, if you wanted to. So this is what I call flowing variables. This is something that can change with each step, right? With the trigger and the next steps. But then you can also have an exact step, or, exact variable, which, for example, you can use an input or an output of any previous step, or, you can use the headers of the webhook for a given step, or for a trigger, and you can have, multiple triggers. I already said that, but yeah, this is essentially just the framework to be able to build anything. Yeah, that's what I would say. What else? Is there really anything else for me to say at this point? Yeah, I'm gonna have an API here, so like the API for the sandboxes, for the automations too. This is all not complete, still not released. I have a lot of things to polish, but it's gonna be ready soon, and I want to hear what people think. But let's actually get into like a like a real example of me building an automation with an AI agent, right? So let's see what I actually want to automate. Let's say I want it to, write to a file. Okay, so I'm just going to dictate. So can you make a workflow that appends lines to a file every 10 seconds? I'm just going to send it. So actually, I included a skill for all of the pre-installed agents like Claude, like OpenCode, like Codex, CLI, like Gemini, and I installed AMP, but I've never actually seen anybody use it, but Maybe there are some people. But I've pre-installed or pre-configured skills. Oh, it actually, okay. It decided to do a weird sort of, right. Cron is, okay, that's a bad example, I guess, because cron has a thing for, wait, did it actually think outside? It did. Wait, this is actually really smart. So it figured out the constraints of cron having a poll every minute. And so it literally just did, wow, it did 6 commands within 1 step, right? Yeah. And so you have 60 seconds, so literally every 10 seconds. So it completely thought of the solution that I thought was a mistake, sort of, but it wasn't a mistake. It actually worked. Yeah, as you can see, it's really simple to build these workflows out with AI. You know, you can build them yourself because this is really easy. But yeah, what I was saying earlier is that what is included with, you know, a sandbox is this pretty big skill, but not too big, you know. It's what? Well, 400 lines, but it allows the agent to essentially build these workflows flawlessly. But, you know, you could just also give it the schema, which is not too big, like 300 lines. So out of this skill that's 300 lines, it's just a schema. You could just give this to an agent and it's going to build it flawlessly too, but I decided to give it some context so you can actually have a, you know, proper experience. And yeah, it's really simple for it to, you know, use this. But it let's see. It seems to I'm not really sure what it's doing here, so it's doing concurrency. I'll just say keep going. So there's the concurrency behavior, which is currently editing, which is just, you know, what it's going to do when there are multiple runs in progress, you know. And it decided to set it to 1 and cancel newest. So every new run that's going to run, if there's an existing one, is going to cancel it. And I think it's struggling with the last sort of second or a few seconds when the automation is running, but then it wants to run another one because it's on a cron schedule to run every minute. And, you know, I could just set it to 2, but let's see it try to figure it out. But while it's doing that, let's see, what else can we do? We can fork from a new snapshot, for example. Let's see. Let's just fork it. Let's just fork this sandbox. As you can see, this one is still running, and then this one gets created. You can see the automation here is running. But yeah, it's connecting and yeah. So this essentially just has all the files and stuff from that here, and I can run them in parallel, you know. I can run multiple, you know, you can use this for development too. You can run multiple agents with different approaches and stuff, and then you can, you know, you go back in the tree and, you know, fork from here, you know, you can fork from here, from here. It's really cool. Yeah. But yeah, let's see. I'm just gonna delete this because I don't need this. And I seem to have pushed the automation, and I'm not really sure. Oh, I see. No, it actually did stop. Yeah, I don't really know what the fuck Claude is doing, but let's just run it, for example. So it made the automation. I'm just going to run it and concurrency limit reach because this is running. Okay. I don't think it actually did too well with this sort of task. Let's set it to 3, for example. It's going to push it, it's going to run it, and then this is going to execute, you know, write still file every 10 seconds, right? Yeah. So as you can see, that is working, but there's actually 2 different automations currently running because I set the concurrency limit to 3, but you can see that I properly built it, but I think just Sonnet is struggling with reasoning on this because, I mean, this is really simple for it to, you know, it's just not understanding how crons work, I guess. And like time and shit, like stuff. I don't know if I should be swearing, honestly. I'm posting this on the main channel of, you know, Deployery, but yeah. Just let me know what you guys think, I guess, is what I would say. Yeah.